Hey YouTube, Jumpman here. In today's video, we'll be diving into the VulnNet roasted room from TryHackMe. It's an easy room focused on Active Directory exploitation techniques, where we'll first obtain a list of valid usernames with an RID brute force through guest authentication in SMB to perform an srep roast attack with Kerbrute, where we'll be finding the user tskid being vulnerable to the attack. Once we crack his hash and obtain valid credentials to access SMB, we'll find a VBS script in the NETLOGON share where we can obtain credentials for the user a-whitehat that can perform a DCSync attack, leading to the compromise of the AD server. So, with that being said, let's get started. So let's start with an nmap scan. Let's do nmap sc-sc for default scripts. -sv to enumerate versions, -vv, this is going to give us a double verbosity output, giving us the TTL of the open ports that we find, -on to output the results in the nmap format, put it in the nmap directory and call this TCP, and then give in the IP of the machine. I've already run this port scan, so I'm just going to check the results of it. And we see that we have a lot of ports open. We see that we have DNS, which is running a simple DNS plus. We also see Kerbrute open, and we see SMB port open as well, together with LDAP, which is telling us that it's an Active Directory machine. So it's likely that this is a domain controller. It also gives us the domain, and also the host name of the DC. So let's just add those to the host file. Now that we have it added, we can quit and save by doing column X on VI. And now let's get started with enumeration. So let's start enumerating the SMB. Let's do netexec SMB 10, 10, 12, 148. Get some initial information. And we see that it's a Windows 10, Server 2019, with the build version together with the architecture. Already given us the host name and also the domain. So let's see if we can do guest authentication. And we can. So let's enumerate shares. It looks like we have some non-common shares that are open and for us to read. So we have VulnNet Business Anonymous and we have VulnNet Enterprise Anonymous. So let's just run spider plus to crawl through those shares that we have read permissions and see what kind of files we have inside. Alright, so the crawler is already finished, and then we have the file saved in this directory here as a JSON file. Let's scan it and see what we have inside. It looks like we have a bunch of txt files from both of the shares. Let's run npacket smb client and check for the files and its contents. Now let's list the shares. And let's use the ones that we found the contents in. Let's list it. Do an mget with the star icon. This is going to get all the files and saved into our current working directory. And let's use the same with the Enterprise Anonymous. Now let's exit. And if we do an ls, we see that we have all the txt saved. Let's get on all the txt files and see what we have inside. Looks like we have a lot of messages from users from this machine or enterprise. We have a few names here, and we could potentially use username anarchy to make sure that we find valid users or potential users that follow some sort of structure. For example, the initial of the first name and then the whole last name divided by either a dot or underscore or any sort of character, or just the first name separated by a dot with the last name. But if we take a read and everything, doesn't seem that we have anything really important. We just see that we have some description from the users. In total, checking up from this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 users. Let's try to enumerate the users by using an RID brute and then logging this into users.log. Did a little mistype here, so I'm just going to rerun the command again. And we can see we found some default users together with other default groups from the domain. We also have enterprise read-only domain controllers. And then we also have some SAD type users. And this is apparently the users that we previously found. This being the first user, second, third, and fourth. Just like what we have seen on the TXT files that we captured on SMB. If we cat to see the log, we see that we don't really have a perfect user list. So what I'm going to do is filter through using cut. I'll use a column to the limit, and the field is going to be the fifth. And here we have a list of groups and users. However, I only want to get the SAD type user, so I'm going to grep for it. And now we only have the type of users together with the machine user. I'm going to pipe this again to awk. And I'm going to print the second column. Actually, the first one. Now we have a list of the users. I'm going to pipe this again to cut. Use the delimiter of backslash. Oops, that's not the character. And put in the feud too. Now we have a more clean output of the users. I'm going to output this into users.txt. And now let's use Kerbrute from source code to perform an asrep roast attack. Asrep roasting is basically an attack where whenever you have an account that does not have pre-authentication required, we can obtain its hash and crack it offline and obtain the clear text password of the user. We're going to use Kerbrute for this, and the way that we're going to use it, we're basically going to copy the repository link. It's going to be right in the description. So we're going to git clone Kerbrute, cd into it, and then we're just going to run global build and a dot. If we ls-delete, we can see that we have Kerbrute, the Kerbrute binary here. I'm going to change the file name of Kerbrute to Kerbrute dir, move Kerbrute to the current working directory. And now we have the binary here. A lot of people tend to go for the release version of Kerbrute, but they're missing out on some development features that includes the ASREP roasting attack. So to make sure that we can crack the hashes collected, we're going to use the downgrade option, which is going to downgrade the encryption of the ASREP. By default, it's going to come up with a hash with a encryption that Hashcat cannot break. And we're going to also output the hashes collected to a hash file. So to do so, we're going to use user enum feature. And then we're going to give the required parameters and flags. So we're going to give the domain VulnNet rst.local together with the DC being the IP of the machine. So 10.10.12.148. Given the downgrade option. And the hash file being hashes.asrep. And now we're going to give the users.txt file. I had a connection error, so let's see what's going on. Apparently the host seems to be down, so I'm going to restart the machine and then come back shortly. Alright, we're back now, and let's use the new IP. And now we're able to get the tskid asrep hash. We can check the hashes.asrep file that we passed in to output the hash, and we have it right here. Let's use hashcat to correct this hash. Going to the example hashes page, we can search for asrep, and we have the hash mode that we have to pass in. Let's give the hashes.asrep file, and then give the word lists, and then I'm gonna give rockq.txt, and now output this to tskid creds.log, and then we were able to crack his password. Well, let's run NetExec. And then give the username tskid with the new password. And let's enumerate shares again to see if we have anything different from the anonymous authentication that we got. We got a connection timeout, so let's just run the command again. The authentication was successful. Now let's wait to see the shares that's going to show us. Run this command again because it timed out again. And meanwhile, I'm going to start a Bloodhound collection. So I'm going to use Bloodhound Python. If you don't have installed, make sure to install it. But it already comes in with Kali Linux, so there's no worries for that. If you're using Kali, of course. So I'm going to give in the username, the password, domain, together with the name server, and also the DC. So let's run as Bloodhound Python, username being tskid, with the password that I believe it's still my clipboard. Yes, it is. NS, and then we're gonna put the IP, which is 10.10. Gotta get this new one. this one right here. Then give the domain VulnNet rst.local, and then DC being let's see, this one right here. And one more thing to note is that we have new shares that we have read access into, those being sysvol and NETLOGON. So since we found that, I'm going to run spider plus again and see what is inside NETLOGON and sysvol. Gonna run that again. I think it timed out. Not sure why that's actually happening. It's probably because of the machine itself. So yeah. See, we got another timeout connection, but I'm just gonna continue with the Bloodhound collection. So VulnNet rst.local, and we'll do collection all, put that in zip. If this doesn't work, then I'm going to use DNSchef so we can proxy DNS queries for a machine to the domain controller. So I'm just going to rerun this again until it works, because I believe the connection from my host to the machine is a little bit messed up. Looks like it ran and it worked now. We had no issues with the collection, so we already found some really interesting things. We got one domain, one computer, 9 users, 52 groups, 2 GPOs, and just saving it into a zip. The collection was successfully done. It saved into a zip. Well, let's go into Bloodhound. I already opened it, but if you haven't yet, you can go to your terminal and first start neo4j. So do a sudo neo4j start. I already have it running, so I'm not going to start it. But if you haven't started neo4j, make sure to start it. And we also have our collection already done here as well with spider plus. So let's just I'm going to use less. Actually cat this and see if I have GoJQ. I don't have it. Do I have JQ? No, I don't. So I'm gonna just go ahead and install GoJQ. Oops, forgot to do the install. And let this run. Meanwhile, let's go into Bloodhound and upload the data. The file was in zip-it and really fast it did the upload. So we can just go ahead and check for tskid. Mark the user as owned. And check for some enumeration on the Bloodhound collected data. What I like to do is check for dangerous privileges, see principals that can perform a DCSync attack. We have nothing out of ordinary. We have domain admins being able to do so, also administrators and enterprise admins, together with the machine account as well. And we have also the administrator and a-whitehat. We'll mark this user as a high value, and this is a user that was created and it's not default. So we can get more information about what the DCSync is. Basically, the user has the DS replication get changes and DS replication get changes all privileges to the domain. This is going to allow us to perform a DCSync attack and therefore obtain hashes for all the users, especially the administrator, so we can privilege escalate into obtaining administrator. I have GoJQ installed. Piping the cat, we have this a little bit more detailed. I can then do net, I think it's sysvol. This is going to show me what's inside sysvol. And we see that we have a VBS script called reset password, not only in here, but also in NETLOGON. So let's go ahead and retrieve that, see what's inside. I'm going to use in packet SMB client. Give the user of tskid and then his password, which I have to get it again because it's not on my clipboard. And get the IP 1010 210, 218 136. Now let's use NETLOGON, do an ls, and obtain the reset password.vbs. Now that we have it saved, we can exit, check the content, and see what we have inside. And right off the bat, we can see that we have the username and a password for a-whitehat. So let's go ahead and see if this works. So let's do a net exec SMB. Give the username a-whitehat. And give in the password. Let's see if those credentials are valid. And it looks like it is. Since we previously seen in Bloodhound that a-whitehat has DCSync permissions, we can perform a secret stump using in-packet to obtain the hashes from all the users, and therefore collecting the administrator hash so we can own this domain controller. So I'm going to use in-packet secret stump, and I'm going to give in the target being the domain together with the username and the password, and then the IP, which is 1010 18 218. I already forgot about it. 136. There you go. So let's see if this works. Now it's starting to dump credentials using the ntds.net secrets method. And we're getting all the hashes from every account. So now, since we have the administrator NTLM, we can copy it and just eval_winrm in the box. With a pass the hash attack. So the host timed out again. I'm going to restart it and come back shortly again. Alright, now I have restarted this machine for the third time. We can finally get access to the machine with the administrator hash. I hope so. So let's just wait until this run. Well, it's just taking more than usual. I kind of don't like this. Taking a really good time. Let's see. Ping this. That's up. Alright. What I'll try to do is use NetExec and see if we can authenticate with this hash. We can, but it doesn't say that it's owned or anything like this. But we did have a connection timeout, so I believe this is why it didn't show anything. So let's just run this again. But the authentication with past the hash did indeed work. It's erroring to check if the user is an admin, but I believe if we try to execute commands like who am I, it would probably work. I'm not sure, but let's just see. And we do now have a message that is pwned, and that we have compromised the domain controller. And shortly, we might have the results of the who am I command being executed and shown to us if anything goes wrong. And we did have command execution via wmi exec, and we have the execution. We can probably do npacket wmi exec to obtain a hash. So I can just do the VulnNet rsd local administrator and then give the hash. Which I don't have copied. So let me just go up here, copy it, and let's see if it works. Oh, I guess I just do like this. And maybe I have to give the IP as well. So let me check really quick again. What was the IP? Right here. And there we go. Now we have a shell as administrator. With this, we can obtain the hashes from we can obtain the flags and therefore submitted in the platform. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I am actually sorry for all of this confusion, having to reset machines over and over again. Not sure if the issue was with the box or if it was with me. Probably both, I'm not sure. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Maybe probably learned something. So yeah, peace out.